Hey there, folks. You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. Welcome to the party. I'm Savage, and due to licensing restrictions and several ongoing court cases, I'm afraid I'm all you're getting this evening. But don't worry, this is episode 600, a milestone for the party, and due to scheduling conflicts, the rest of the crew can't be here with me tonight, but pour yourself a drink. We're going to go down memory lane, folks. We're going to stop in on a couple of shows from the past, ones that I found particularly amusing. We're going to stop in and see what hosts past, present, and hopefully with us again in the future have to say about the show and their memories of their time on the Adventuring Party. And maybe I'll share a little anecdote along the way. Anyways, the first thing I wanted to do was set a ground level. I mean, yes, we're a slick, multi-talented production these days, but it wasn't always the case. Used to be we had to go to some pretty weird places to find our talent. This episode is this episode I'm going to play a clip from is the earliest one we can find that is still available in our archives. It dates from February in 2009, and the party had just been to a convention in the south of Ireland, Cork, called WarpCon. They had a rather curious tale to tell about the after-hours activities of some of the party members and the kind of clientele they tended to attract. Here we go. I think it's Ushin's going to tell us this tale.
For me, that was the highlight, and quite often is the highlight of WarpCon, is going down to a hostel in Cork with 60-odd gamers, and often staying up until 4 or more in the morning, playing board games, playing card games, playing drinking games, occasionally. The port and starboard drinking robo-rally game. That was a bad idea, really.
But, speaking of bad ideas, I believe I saw you wandering around the con in pyjamas and a pit helmet.
Okay, there was a reason for that. You see, last year, a couple of our guys, they went back to the hostel, put on their pyjamas and started playing games. Drinking port, playing games, that was fine. Someone takes a picture. Fine enough. Post it on the internet. Some guy decides to make this one of his favourites, leading to the discovery of what all his favourites were. All portly gentlemen wearing pyjamas. So, this was the discovery. This was the discovery of the pyjamas and port porn incident.
There's a real number for that on the internet, isn't there?
54, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it exists, there's porn of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, portly gentlemen in pyjamas, it exists.
It wasn't specifically portly gentlemen in pyjamas playing games, though, was it? Or was that a little too specific?
No, that's a little too specific for this fellow, anyway.
So you decided to cash in on this porn industry, so you can afford it. You can afford to be in the bed and breakfast next year, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Can buy more games too.
Yeah, so that was why we decided to just sort of take that to its logical conclusion. And clearly, logically, the conclusion was to wear pit helmets as well, smoke pipes, and
make a calendar.
No, we haven't made a calendar. That's a good idea.
Unfortunately, the guys never did make that calendar, but I think that's something we can all be grateful for. That said, getting into your pajamas and doffing a pit helmet at your fellow adventurers became something of a tradition for a few years afterwards, when certain members of the community headed for Cork for a wild weekend of flannel fun. Later on in this episode, Ushin related another story about the sorts of shenanigans they used to get up to in the hostels after hours, particularly in relation to a game I fondly remember, the Titanic Titan, who, well, let's just say there's lots of ways to win. Let's see if you can guess who he's talking about here.
Now, Titan is one of these old school games. It's been recently reissued, but it's an old school game where there's a lot of dice rolling, a lot of slow build-up of forces, and eventually sort of delivering coup de grace to your opponent. And the typical playing time is somewhere between 7 and 11 hours.
Oh,
nice.
We got it done.
Sounds like my kind of game.
So, it's not the sort of game you play of an evening. You need to pretty much a wet weekend in with your mates or, a con day or something like that. But it's a good game. Just know what you're getting yourselves in for. One of the players maintains that he won the game because he was eliminated in 15 minutes and the rest of us spent 7.5 hours playing the game. The man makes a somewhat valid point.
Well, that sounds like an excellent way to play, if I do say so myself. That was indeed your own good host, Savage, who managed to bow out in record time from what is, by all accounts, a truly epic game. Let's just say I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Anyways, that's enough of wandering down memory lane for the moment. Let's turn to someone else who was there for that faithful first, or early episode at least. That's one Liam. Liam was good enough to don his recording hat again and throw a few pearls of wisdom our way, a little reminiscing on his time with the party. Here we go. Take it away, Liam.
Welcome to the party. I'm Liam. Savage has asked us to record a bunch of snippets. The most memorable things from recording for the last 600 episodes. And for me, why I've kept recording is it's fun. And nothing epitomised that for me as much as the fact that we were unable to record 5 seconds of silence for the longest time. Now I want you to think about that. I want you to try it now. We're going to take a deep breath. And then we're going to take 5 seconds of silence. Okay, that didn't seem that hard. That was pretty trivial. Now, we're going to do it again. But this time, I'm going to say something ridiculous before we do. So, we're going to do 5 seconds of silence. Everybody, no sniggering, nothing. And while we're doing that, I want you to think about giant floppy donkey dicks. It was a lot harder that time, wasn't it? Yeah, I thought so. For years, Shane kept this up, and really, it's one of the things that stuck in my mind. There were fun episodes, way back when the Time Lords episode, the Christmas episodes where we do our Secret Santa have really stood out to me as just being an enormous amount of fun, particularly when Brian did something mad like, wrap it 10 times and you'd stick it in a whole pile of flour so it would look like cocaine. All great. And I've made a lot of friends and continue to have a lot of friends through the podcast. It's been great. But for me, yeah, trying to do 5 seconds of silence without laughing your ass off. That's been my favourite bit of the podcast. So, this is 600. Here's 100 to 600.
Here's to you, Liam. I raise my glass. Liam's very much the Terry Wogan or Johnny Carson of the podcast. He's always got something to say. He's unflappable. He's never lost for words. Generally, you can look to him for a solid, considered opinion. In this next clip from May 2010, we can hear Liam, Killian, Shane, Humbug and Dizzy discussing how they put their dice to the test. Now, folks, you might think that the Adventuring Party has gotten into the realm of tough topics these days, but wait till you hear these boys go at it. Roll it.
So they might want like red dice or blue dice or whatever. And
well, that's reasonable.
Matching up colours is fine, but then they're going to roll all their dice that are red and they're going to go, oh no, there's too many ones, and go back and find more red dice. And you're like, oh dear God.
Yeah, that kind of low-level testing is craziness. You need thoroughness. You need thorough, exhausting tests.
Okay, for a number to be statistically relevant, you need at least 100 dice or maybe even 1,000 dice.
Are you telling me that the quick test I did before recording this episode is completely invalid? You, sir, go away.
It's 4% valid or something, isn't it?
No. The one commonly held perception people have is that dice of the same colour roll better.
Yeah, I would never.
I personally believe different odd dice roll better, and I've noticed this as I'm playing.
Wait, are we talking just colour or size as well? Because rolling a big dice is small.
Sizes
I know you say you've got your limits
wrong,
too.
Yeah. Different sizes is wrong, but yeah. Like a black dice and a red dice of the exact same size. And a little sample group.
Did you manage 1,050 rolls there?
No.
No, not quite. Okay.
I got 2 matching white dice, 2 matching blue dice, and I rolled them 20 times. Not much, not enough to draw a massive scientific conclusion from.
Well, what were you trying for? Were you trying for high or low or middle or what?
High.
Are you sure? You were trying for that and not just rolling to see what came up?
Really?
No, it was whichever rolled highest.
You shouldn't be trying for high or low. You should just roll the dice.
No. No. You need to know which ones are more receptive.
It depends on the game. In Axis and Allies, you want to be rolling ones.
Actually, that's something.
It's true.
I know. We'll let the
games are low, some games are high.
My premise before rolling was to aim high.
Yeah.
Okay. And as it turns out, I rolled 20 times with the 2 white dice. I got a total of 140. I rolled 20 times with both blue dice. I got 136, and then I mixed the 2 sets up and rolled 145 with one of the blue and one of the whites, and 149 with the other white and blue.
There you go.
So
Conclusive
mixed up dice are better.
Right.
I just as something to contribute to this, I started to replicate his results before getting bored. So I only did one set of 20, but I got a total of 250.
Holy crap.
And I'm the unlucky one. So
What kind of dice were you using there?
2 matched.
Okay, now you see, it didn't matter
Sorry,
because
our 2012 is 240.
Yeah.
So you rolled a good few 13s and 14s in there, did you?
Or I just can't add.
I'd say that's the likely one.
Did you? I think I might know what you did. Did you add the columns twice?
Maybe
Because you
I
wrote
did.
down the result of each dice and then
probably.
the total. Did you add all 3
Well, cheating's
columns?
perfectly legitimate.
A further statistical complication requires that the people doing it can add and that their mojo doesn't blind them.
Well, I've got my own statistical
Science,
survey
right?
from a few years back.
Look at this. Oh my
Are you saying that any test results on evolution from like the Methodist College of somewhere are completely invalid?
Alright, I'm gonna have to...
Look at that A4 page.
So I used to work nights.
Show a photograph of this in today.
I will, I'll take one now in a second. I used to work nights, so I had a D100 and there's at least 10 beside every number, so that's a good more than 1,000 rolls.
Some of them have like 17.
Yeah, so that's a tiny bit statistical.
Was that with a D100 or D percentile
D
or
percentile,
a D?
D10 and D20 using the digit from the 20, the way I do it. And that's a tiny bit statistical, but not very.
And what does it say?
It says, don't try to roll 7, do try to roll 48 or 95.
But don't try to roll 47.
Yeah.
And did you abuse that? Did you use that for god rolls when we were playing D&D and stuff?
No, it was when we were back then, we were playing D&D and using that system, but, yeah. I've got a ton of stuff. I really must have spent a lot of time.
Way too much time.
There, and there's some more.
Okay, there will be pictures of this up.
Right, sorry Liam, you've been out crazy.
This was a consistent, crazy span. But that is an interesting thing.
If only you'd been in a jail cell in an asylum and it was all over the walls, that would be better.
Well, I think it's fair to say there's nothing that will drive gamers quite as crazy as the fall of those ivory trinkets, our precious dice. No matter if we treat them like darlings, favourites, or punish them like errant miscreants, we live and die by the way they fall. Our next companion on this trip down memory lane is none other than Ice Cream Kean, who preceded me as a host, although we've known each other for many, many years, gamed together, drank together, gotten all sorts of trouble together. Here he is talking about his time in the party. I'll let him convey his feelings on the whole thing in his own inimitable style.
And I'm Ice Cream. So, what do you say about the adventuring party? I don't know, but I've had a gin and now I'm going to start talking and we'll see what comes out. I joined the adventuring party, long before you were born. And the reason I joined was because Liam and Humbug sent out a request for hosts to the Irish Gaming Association. That towering ebony edifice of villainy, the IGA. And we responded. Myself and fellow adventuring party hosts Graham Turner and Owen Burke showed up and started hosting. Liam and Humbug put the call into us and said that they were running out of hosts. I guess too many hosts had been devoured whole by Humbug, who unhinged his jaw and swallowed them in one go like a horrifying demonic snake. But whatever the reason, they needed more meat for the grinder, so the three of us volunteered. And the adventuring party became really a terribly positive influence in my life at that point. It was more of a social exercise for me. Every couple of weekends, I got to go and meet these guys, these great guys, if I'm being honest, and talk absolute nonsense. Because if you looked at the Adventuring Party as a boy band, and you really shouldn't do that, but if you did, I knew what my role was. All right, Graham was the witty one with the one-liners. Owen was the incredibly well-informed one with the good arguments. Humbug was the Simon Cowell. And Liam was the sexy one. And I was the useful idiot. If I had to put a phrase on it, I would say I was the useful idiot. I would ask ridiculous questions and say stupid things, and I wonder if it was annoying to be a co-host with me, because I mean, you know, the guys would come in, and quite often, especially Humbug and Owen, would have done a lot of research, and they'd have notes, and they'd know exactly what we were talking about, and I'd swan in late and hungover and have no idea what we were talking about, and I'd say stupid things and ask silly questions. And on one occasion, I just stood up in the middle of a recording and walked out of the room because I thought it was funny, and I just left them to it. So it must have been aggravating to be stuck around the recording table with me. I remember on one occasion when we did the Adventuring Party, panel. We did a live recording at Airtacon, I think, one of the big anime conventions. It was in Croke Park that year. And I was so hungover that I had to take a bunch of Nurofen Plus, and I spent the entire recording lying down on a row of chairs. And they just had to set the microphone up pointing at my mouth so I could blabber hungover rubbish into the Adventuring Party engine. So that was fun. I should say one of the things that I enjoyed about the Adventuring Party, quite outside of the conversation, was for a full year I got to edit every episode. Now, poor Humbug had to edit every episode for a full 3 years. I only had to bear that weight for 1 year, but it was a lot of fun, and I kind of got my editing chops on a bit, to the point that after one of the episodes, I left an entire play, a radio play, which Owen Burke kindly recorded some lines for me. So I got the opportunity to play around with that kind of thing, which I also got a lot out of. But looking back now, I mean, it's been a while since I've been involved in the Adventuring Party in any ongoing way, and I do miss it. I simply don't have the time to put into it anymore. Doing something like the Adventuring Party, which is a long-running podcast, and I like to think a valuable podcast, you need to put the time into it. You need to have not only there's a certain amount of discipline involved. I'm really starting to ramble now, and it's been almost 5 minutes. So I'm just going to say Adventuring Party good, everyone else bad, buy stocks in Coca-Cola. Goodbye!
Goodbye and so long, old friend. I hope wherever you end up, they bury you good and deep. Anyways, that's not the last we'll be hearing from Ice Cream tonight. I've dug up an early appearance where he, Owen, and again, Liam were discussing player skill versus character skill, but that wasn't really important. What was important was Cian's opinions on food and toasting the king. Let's listen to a couple of segments now.
Welcome to the party. I'm Liam.
I'm Owen.
And I'm Ice Cream.
And this week we're here to give you some genuine listener feedback. We're going to reach deep into our mailbag. Our bustling mailbag.
Owen has withdrawn a glowing letter, which he is handing to me. Let me just open this here.
You're going to feel up the mailbag and open it up.
There we go. It was in a plastic envelope.
Actually, give us one of those chocolate digestives.
Yeah, all right. It is a superior biscuit. I don't know why you don't really need to go any higher than chocolate digestive. It's got everything you need. It's got the biscuit. It's got the chocolate. So I was listening to your last con review, and I feel that I as Cian should strain here that I am not the one who wrote this.
You're not the I.
I am not the I in this. This is a genuine.
You're purely narrating.
I am purely narrating. This is a genuine reader question.
Make it clear.
Non-fictional.
Don't do it.
in your smooth caramel baritone.
What accent would you like?
Scotch, right?
Aye. No, I'm not. I can't. This question is too long. It'll be going on too long. And our Scottish listeners might get offended and make me eat Scottish food, which is a fate worse than death.
It's just normal food, but deep fried.
Well, I can tell you, in that particular example, one of the two players was me.
Yeah.
And myself and the other both went, trivia time! Lay it on us! Yeah! And he asked questions so punishingly difficult.
It was like the specialist knowledge questions on Mastermind.
Oh no, he gave us a week to answer them when we were allowed to use the internet.
Oh wow, okay.
And it was brutal. Oh, those questions were just really nasty. And I ended up reading historical journals written by English officers in the 18th century to try and find some of the answers to those. Still didn't get that one. That question, actually, I'm going to run this one by you real quick. That question was, I'll probably get some of the details wrong here, but who cares? Historical accuracy. Why in the English Navy, why is water not allowed on the table when you're toasting the king's health?
Don't know.
Because of King James.
Drowned?
Crypto Jacobites, when people were toasting the king, they would say, "To the king!" And they would toast with their glass over something with water in it, and it was the king over the water. So they banned water from the officers' mess table, so people couldn't secretly toast the wrong king.
That sounds ridiculously silly.
Yes.
Look, everyone was wearing poofy hats and poofy shirts, and
it was a silly time.
Yes, it was a silly place.
It was indeed a silly time, a silly place. That was back May 2014. That was Ice Cream, who hopefully we'll see around these parts again. Next up is a man who probably needs very little introduction, except to say that he preceded me onto the party as a host by a few scant months and has lorded it over me ever since, bullying me in almost every episode we've appeared in together. I am, of course, talking about the intimidating Scar, better known to some of you as Shane Carr. Shane is a stalwart companion on our journey on our partying as we head into the next 600 episodes. I'm going to hand over to him now, so sit back, fix another drink, I know I'm going to, and prepare to hear what this tyrant of the airwaves has to say for himself. Shane, over to you.
Hi all, Shane here, the new Shane. The Barbarian King Scar, aka Race. Don't ask me to explain that. So, it's hard to believe that it's been less than 2 years since I joined the podcast. This used to be my go-to, I need some Irish gaming podcast, and it was always a little bit surreal when I finally got called up to fill the ranks. And start, adding to the discourse, such as it is, even though, 90% of our listeners are Americans who just like our funny accents. But yeah, it's a cool thing to see it get to this kind of milestone, and I'm glad to have helped to get it there, especially the last year or so. I think for me, I define it mostly by the standard episodes, the ones that I still feel compelled to listen to again when I'm thinking about a specific problem in DMing and when I'm GMing or playing. I still feel compelled to go back to the adventure party and listen and see their takes on the problems. And if it was about agreeing with the adventure party, there had never been a single episode this damn show made. So it's not about agreeing with this at all, but it is always nice to get the juices flowing. I think for me, the major episodes that I consider my favorites, one would be the interview with Gar Hanrahan about the Dracula dossier, mainly just because it's just a very it's an informative episode, and it's talking about an interesting product and all that. But I think for me, it's just the level of banter to it. I know it's just a really easy listen, and it's a bit of fun. I don't know. I've always liked it for that. So that's one. If you want to listen to people speak strongly about things, I can always recommend the 2014 player skill versus character skill episode. That's a bit of a lark. But the one I think I'm most proud of for inspiring, I was the GM who watched the inciting incident, take flame and immolate half my campaign, is the Paladin problem episode. Pride is probably the wrong word for what I feel. Listening to Puroshin speak out against the problem, the Paladin calves, and how it could be fixed while Ice Cream tries to drag him down, and Liam tries to be a fruitless and useless neutral. That's always a fun one. Apart from that, well, I should probably mention the episodes that I'm most proud to have actually taken part in. An early one that I'm proud of is the Why Are RPGs Bad episode, where I got to really just show off just how much random useless trivia about mid-90s RPGs I've learned by listening to smarter, more American people. So that's a fun one. And then, of course, there's the wonderful 3-part series, Player Pitfalls and GM Crimes. Which, to be fair, I can hardly take that much credit for. I provided some talking points, and one Mick Fitzpatrick, cursed be his name, ran with it and gave us, good solid 2 hours of ribaldry and warm to flaming takes. But yeah, that's a fun one. I'm glad I got those 3 episodes. I'm a big fan of the Downtimes episode that we did last year, but almost exactly 1 year ago as I speak this. The just talking about, because it's part of the discourse that I think gets overlooked. We don't have as many LARPers in the party as we used to. They're in what we call the after party. Of course, we're going to keep the joke going. But yeah, it's the interesting interplay between when you cut out all of the table banter and abstraction stuff, the universal question of, well, what is my character doing when he's not stabbing goblins? I think it's one that's worth going over again, just thinking about it a bit more in a lot of games. But that episode I'm pretty proud of. And of course, to be honest, the most proud of is the recent interview we did with Kat Tobin, because I got to interact with a wonderful lady who is doing amazing work in the actual industry, actually making the games and causing to be the fantastic work that fills our lives with joy. And I'm glad I was able to impress her with my overly elaborate list of questions. But yeah, those are, I think, my touchstones for why we've been around for 600 episodes and why we continue to make them every week, barring an occasional Christmas Day bender that leaves a worrying gap in our schedule. But yeah, I think those are the episodes that really make me feel like this is worth doing. And even with all of the COVIDs and, scheduling issues and things drying up, I think we're going to keep at this. Not like I have anything better to do with my life apart from all the actual things. Well, this is Shane signing out for now. I need to go raid another village or two. I hear there are evil robots around. Ciao.
Ciao indeed, you old son of a gun. Cannot let that Christmas blip go, can you? Okay, well, you know what? Two can play that game. Shane, as always, shows up with plenty of notes, always prepared. He mentioned a whole bevy of really excellent episodes he's appeared in. He's had a hand in, has been instrumental in bringing to your ears. And you really should check them out. I'm not going to play any of them, though. Instead, I'm going to play a clip from one of my favourite Shane Carr appearances. This is September 2019, when Shane really lays into those plaid shirt wearing, horn rim glass doffing OSR gamers. That's right. He goes medieval on the old school revival. Here it comes. Let's see how you like it, Scar.
So there's been a lot of talk or a growing movement across the RPGosphere about something that is generally being called the old school renaissance or old school revival, or there's actually quite a few things of what the term OSR means and that sort of problem. But basically it's the idea of revisiting old RPG ideas from like the 70s and 80s and using them either by running those old games again or making new games based on those old games. And as an example, I'm just going to make a thunk on the microphone here as I lay out two very different attempts at doing what is claimed on the internet to be the same thing, and the fact that I think that is a pack of lies is and that's where I'd like to segue into the second book, which is a compared to the thump that this thing I would have to flap at the microphone to make it even make a noise. This is
it's like an old school
flap.
copybook.
Yeah, like you could not even fit your first class math lessons in this. This is a game called Into the Odd, and the most reaction I get showing people the cover of this is that they have to squint.
I was gonna say
it's a city skyline, is it? Or
no, it's a dungeon. Like
right.
the word, the title Into the Odd is written out in essentially a sideways dungeon diagram, and it is basically unreadable. And I didn't actually realize it was a title until I got into the book and found the actual name.
Yeah, I could see it was supposed to be a title. I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
I got the into. I got the.
Okay, I see it now. Yeah.
I couldn't get that odd. I was like, what's the last word?
Yeah.
You have to want to see the cogwheel.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, it is Into the Odd, and this is bonkers. This is the other side of the OSR, as it's called. This is someone going, it's not that I want to use an old game, but I want something as bonkers and simple as the old games. That this is 1979 and you're playing with some stoner GM who has torn out half of his peer's handbook and say, no, just use this, this, and this, and it's fine, don't worry about it. And we're going to go into this dungeon I threw together in 5 minutes, and Beckett, there's, I don't
know, Feck is probably PG-13.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's just like, we have a couple of hours, there's 4 of us at the table, plus a GM who doesn't give much of a monkeys. Let's see what we can have. So in contrast to the moderate but still basically modern character creation section and rules, in Stars Without Number, these 2 pages are the character creation, and most of them is just the random table where you cross-reference your best stat rolled 3 to 18 as is traditional, and your starting hit points, and to see what equipment you get. If you get rubbish for your stats, you get like guns and swords and good armor and psychic powers.
Well, now hold on. This isn't very old school because before, if you rolled terrible stats, that was tough on you.
Yeah, but
you got in, you died, and you came back with better stats.
But if you get an 18 and 6 hit points, you start with a club, a pigeon, and a disfigurement.
A pigeon.
Surely balancing.
Is the pigeon a melee weapon, a missile weapon?
Surely with your genetic Superman stats, you just mug somebody and then you have all the good gear.
No. What you do is you actually use the pigeon like a dart. You just go whoosh, and it's a homing pigeon. Return to me, my pigeon.
No, you throw the pigeon at somebody, and then when they're distracted, you tackle them and steal all their stuff.
Okay, so
they've only got a hit point.
The card creation is these 2 pages, which includes the equipment list. And this is the rules. The rules is 1 page next to a picture of a big glowy man stomping through something.
Can I see that actually?
Some kind of river, or does he not have any legs?
I don't know. It could be either. That's the thing. This game is bonkers all the way through. Yeah, this is a bonkers. It took me several read-throughs to actually figure out what the... Yeah, like... The basic rules of playing the game are on 1 page. The XP rules are half a page next to a seeing eye picture, as far as I can tell. And there's a separate page for if you were going for a campaign, which if you want to make this campaign, it's giving you an option. But this is very one-shotty, I found. And then 3 pages of magic items, which are a terrible idea. Why would you use this? This is what happens. There's a picture of a man. He's turning into an octopus, and his head is a cannonball.
Well, I think you get the picture. Like I said, that's from September 2019. That was KB, Shane, Ian, Liam, as always. It was a good episode. I'd highly advise you go back and listen to it. It's not often you can really get my good pal Shane riled up, but boy oh boy, these old school guys get right under his skin. Now, he's softened his cough here and there since, but I know what grinds his gears. Anyways, that's about it for 600 episodes. I'm obviously new guy on the block. I've had a hell of a time this last couple of years. I believe I joined up in... Let me just check our records. It would have been sometime around November 2018. Here I am talking to those grand old masters of the Irish gaming podcast, Liam and Shane, about making your own fun. Let's face it, times like these, you're going to have to make your own fun. But I hope that over the last few months, weeks, years that you've been listening, that you've found a few bright spots. I've certainly had a lot of fun digging through the archive. I'm going to fade out now and see if I can, explain myself what I mean by collaborative or conspiratorial making your own fun. Here we go.
So what about when 2 players collude to have fun while playing? which I've done and I've seen. I'm not that proud, I'll admit it.
What does this look like?
What does this look like? The real world example is probably that old GW game Talisman, which I deplore. It's basically dressed up Monopoly as far as I'm concerned.
It's Ludo. That's where your wizard's just wandering around in circles.
Yeah.
So this is every turn awful. You have this decision to make in Ludo.
Yeah.
Or not Ludo, sorry, in Talisman. Roll a dice.
That sounds
and
like
you can go left or right.
That sounds like
that number of squares.
Okay. Yeah, it's Ludo.
That's all of the
it's
decision making.
So there you go. And some people love it. I mean, there's expansions coming out. It's ears. People
I've
lap
never
it up.
understood it.
People whose opinions I respect on board games. I guess it's sort of like mac and cheese for them. It's a great sort of thing to just play.
It's got some really nice visual design.
Really nice visual design. And some of the flavor text on all of the cards is really good.
It's fun turning cards out of the deck. Yeah, and I suppose it's a good example of a game you play to have fun, because who the hell cares if you win at Ludo? But in the case of this game, I was playing it, and myself and another player just basically started a grudge match where we didn't really care what was going on. We simply, worked hard to steal each other's stuff, get in fights, built up a sort of mythology around our various interactions.
Talisman, you need it.
Yeah. And that was
some people are happy with that game and to play that game, but certainly with me, I played it and went, what's going on here? Like, why are people enjoying this? Like,
it's nothing.
There's no thought in this.
Bad example of a game. So, Twilight Imperium, two players decide to start an interstellar romance across the eons. And everyone else is just sitting there going, this is weird.
You're in opposite corners of the board. You're going to need to meet in Mechatol Rex.
Well, I guess with Twilight Imperium again.
Okay, well that really is it. Drink up, turn the lights out, go home. We're done. 600 episodes. We've had a few laughs. I've knocked back a few whiskies. Searched on the doobly-doo for a few choice bits, but I hope you can appreciate that there's so much more in the archives, if you're willing to go digging. However, as I always like to say, our brightest days are ahead of us, because we can't dig through this crap forever, right? Anyway, I'm going to put my feet up now, hit upload, and see what happens tomorrow. But for now, after 600 episodes, and let's say we probably have a few more in the tank, this is Savage signing off. Because this party's over. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Adventuring Party. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything you'd like to comment on, you can drop us a voicemail on SpeakPipe. If you want to interact with the show hosts, past and present, talk about the latest episode or any of the back catalogue, or join in some of the activities we run there, then be sure to drop in our Discord server. There you'll find us nearly every day cooking up new ideas for the show, and we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email, party@theadventuringparty.net, or find us on Facebook and Twitter. Hit us up with a like there, or a follow. The Adventuring Party is released under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike, version 3 license. It's been 600 great episodes, folks. We hope you'll stick around for 600 more. I've been your host, Savage. Thank you, and good night.